Our December 16th episode of Quick to Politic, the podcast, featured special guest Dr. Laur Rubino talking the politics of gender expression and the intersection of sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression. And with this topic, think of a road that has intersections. And the intersections and the cross sections that impact so much of who we are, how we operate in the world, and the barriers or challenges that we may face is explained and broken down very well here by Dr. Rubino. So without further ado, on talking about sexual orientation and gender identity, here is Dr. Rubino to explain and break it down for y'all.
And in talking about, intersectionality, a term coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, a critical race scholar, lawyer and civil rights activist, this refers to the way in which individuals' various identities intersect and interact, both within ourselves internally and within society. And I know her work focused more on Black women and women of color as well. The important phrase that comes to mind to note is by Dr. Bell Hooks. She coined the term white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. And this is perfect to really highlight the multiple systems in place that are occurring at the same time. These systems affect everyone and further oppress already marginalized communities. Each of us have our own unique identities, and many of us have identities from a place of privilege and a place of oppression. These identities are a lens at which we view the world, and it's important to surround ourselves with other perspectives and people with identities that are different from our own. And not to say that people with similar intersectional identities have the same perspectives. Everyone has different experiences and everyone is unique. We can look at these identities internally, but they also play a larger role within society and within these systems. And thinking about this and how our society is set up, we need to look at who's in charge. And when we do this, we really mainly see one quote-unquote perspective, that's setting up practices and rules and laws in society. It comes from primarily white, cis, heterosexual men. And an example that comes to mind that actually has happened, but having a room of cis white men making decisions and laws on reproductive rights, where no one in the room even has a uterus, making decisions on trans and non-binary rights, especially when research has shown that the majority of people, even in this country, said they never met a trans person before. So if you're watching this or listening, I am trans, I am non-binary, so you sort of met a trans person. We are real, we exist, and we are valid.
Okay, all right. It is now recording. Hello, YouTube. Thank you for watching. We're about to take this program live, and I'm right here with my best friend. Okay, and we're going to go ahead, and this is Dr. Laura Rubino. Okay, one last thing. Okay, I feel like I'm talking to Dr. Rubino, and it's just like I'm slightly nervous to be interviewing you because you're an expert and you know all this stuff.
I'm nervous to be interviewed by you. I'm like, oh man.
Don't be. Okay, so we got this. Okay, so I am going to. Without further ado, I just want to. Okay, no echo this time. Hi, I'm Ernestine Lyons, and I am the host of Quick to Politic, and that it is the Social Commentary Podcast. I know it's been a while, and I am back actually with a new episode, and so I just kind of want to give a little bit of introduction to the show. We've been gone for about 5-6 months. And so when I became an elected official in 2019, I won an elected position on the Harperwood City Council. I really knew I wanted to make an impact. And, by having deeper political conversations, I began the Quick to Politic podcast in 2020. And the coronavirus pandemic really created this need to have conversations around what the future holds in terms of policy and the economy, and to really take that deep dive when it comes to social issues, history, politics, and culture. So therefore, Quick to Politic is just a means of having those conversations, those community conversations. And this show has also morphed into having more face-to-face conversations in addition to the podcast. So I do want to thank you for my viewers and my listeners, for everybody who's watching on YouTube, and then those who are listening wherever podcasts are streamed. And thank you. I'm the host, Ernestine Lyons, and tonight we have Quick to Politic back with we have a very special guest, and they are my best friend, Dr. Laur Rubino, and we are talking the politics of gender expression. So I just want to, Laur, go ahead and say hello to everybody.
Hi, everyone. Then thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm super excited about it.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to introduce you formally and read a little bit of your bio for everybody. And then we're just going to get into, the, meat and potatoes of everything. So Dr. Laur Rubino received their PhD from the School of Criminal Justice at the University of Cincinnati. They received their master's in criminal justice at Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. Their research interests include program evaluation, the intersection of sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, or SOGIE, and the race and ethnicity disparities in corrections, wrongful convictions, and the juvenile legal system. Laur's current research projects include focusing on examining youth pathways to the criminal justice or juvenile systems, disparities in programming, and how sexual orientation and gender identity and race, ethnicity affect the treatment of youth in the court system. They have published in Crime and Delinquency, Feminist Criminology, Women in Criminal Justice, and Criminal Justice Policy Review. So without further ado, did I miss anything?
No, I think you got everything. Thanks for that awesome introduction. I love it.
All right. So, I really wanted to explore this topic for quite some time now. Just that I think that our generation and maybe we're millennials, just, to let people know out there. And millennials, we're definitely not little teeny boppers. We are entering in our 40s. And I also wanted to just, mention that I think our generation and the, Gen Zers, we're all really good at making sure that, we're expressing ourselves and how we want to be identified and how, we really think society should view us. And, these are things that none of this is new. So a lot of times when people talk about, gender identity and gender expression, I think that people are like, oh, this is new stuff. And I didn't know anything about that. And it's just, well, these are now terminology, there's nomenclature, and there's something like there are actual labels put on things that people have felt for a very long time. So, this is something that, I really wanted to be able to bring in an expert like yourself, Laura, to, just kind of tell us about your work in, defining gender identity versus gender expression. So tell us about your functional definitions of, what it means to, express your gender and what it means to, define your gender.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think this is, yeah, a good starting point. So, gender identity really refers to individuals' internal sense of self, and this is in regard to your gender. So, for example, my gender identity is non binary. Um, Yours might be woman. So, these were both like our gender identities, like our internal sense of self. Um, and for gender expression, this refers to individuals' outward expression of their gender. So it could be, something like a haircut or, clothing style or even behavior and stuff along those lines. So an example of that, my gender expression personally is usually maybe androgynous and sometimes masculine, um, around that. So I think those are more so functional definitions that we can start with to start the conversation off.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for, just kind of explaining, where I'm going to take that out for a second here, because there's echo going on, but
Uh,
yeah, so these are then that kind of gets me into, you talk about like how you want to present yourself, like maybe adopting a more androgynous look, and not wanting to kind of like conform to a certain what society perceives as like, oh, this is masculine, this is feminine. And it kind of gets into like a discussion around intersectionality, and what does it mean to be like identify as more than one, maybe marginalized group, or, so kind of explain, let's talk about intersectionality coming into play in our culture, in our society, and in politics.
okay, yeah. So, I mean, intersectionality, I think it's important. So, every time I think of it, I think of, the person who coined the term, Kimberly Crenshaw, a critical race scholar, lawyer, civil rights activist. And this really referred to the way in which individuals, hold various identities and they interact and intersect within ourselves internally and within society. So I think there's, like multiple things going on. Like you can have a certain gender identity, gender expression, and so on, or sexual orientation and so on. And all of those together would kind of, make a person, if that makes sense. It would
No, because like I think we had this discussion like in college, and for those of those, I said, Laura is my best friend. We've been knowing each other for years, and we actually like attended a lot of our graduate classes together, and we would just kind of talk about how identity really shapes the way that you feel that the world perceives you, the way that the world does perceive you. And so it's kind of like being identifying as African American, and then kind of having some of the things, that the tropes that go with, and the struggles that go with that identity, and the way society, whether positive or negative, attribute certain things to you. And then also put being a member of the LGBTQ community on with that. And so like then you have those intersections, and so that's what that term even means. And I know that's something that has been thrown around maybe in the last 15 years, and it, like Laura mentioned, coming out of critical race theory, and just kind of looking at that and how the world perceives you. So yeah, thank you for that, and those definitions here. Mhm. Okay, so I want to move along to one of our other questions. This was originally like one of the first questions I wanted to ask you, after reading your really illustrious biography and everything, and all of the research that have been dedicated to for the past, almost 10 years. Tell us about your work and research in criminal justice reform, and, who you are and how that has kind of shaped what you're passionate about. And because I know you are teaching a course this winter. So first you got to start off telling us about your course and like where you're going to be at and, you know, how students can, you know, sign up, but then, you know, kind of just tell us a little bit more about you and why criminal justice reform.
Yeah, so, okay, starting with the course. The course is called LGBTQ plus topics in CJ. This course will be, hopefully, it will be in the winter semester, you know, starting in January. We have low enrollment right now, so please sign up. This course will be cross-listed in criminal justice and criminology and gender, sexuality, and women's studies. And this course will basically, you know, focus on LGBTQ plus individuals in the juvenile and criminal legal system, with a focus on intersectional marginalized identities. So yeah, that's a bit about the course. Do you want to know more about the course? Should we move on? I don't.
No. That's actually fine. So like I know that a lot of Wayne State students are in my, you know, alumni network and, you know, just so do sign up, even if you I believe you can probably even like still audit classes at Wayne State if this is a topic that really interests you. And, you know, so I would really encourage you to do that as well. Even if you're not a student. So and I know it's a process. So but we can talk offline about that. But in the meantime, yeah, so that's all we need to, you know, hear about the course. I just shameless promotion for your course.
Right, yeah, no, that works perfectly.
Right.
I love it. I was looking like, how do I advertise? It's perfect.
Exactly. All right, this course is sponsored by
Right.
So okay, all right, so but no, just kind of want to delve into you and criminal justice reform and your research and, you know, your work around that.
Yeah, definitely. And also,
Oh,
this is
I bet you
amazing
have
tea.
tea. That's what I'm saying.
This is the tea that you made, by the way. I have it like right here.
And you know what? Oh, this course is this podcast is sponsored by earnesttea.com. So
Exactly.
go get yourself some tea. No, and I'm kind of feel sad because all I have is water. And
Why do you have
I had
water?
all this time to have tea and didn't. So
All right. Well,
yes. Okay.
okay. So,
Thank you
little tea
for the
break.
tea
You
plug.
know, that was nice.
That's another thing for our audience members listening and everybody out there. You know, Laura and I would always connect over tea. That's like when we were living in China, and then when we came back, when we were roommates, it was always like, okay, let's just have tea and talk, and you know, let's talk about life. Let's talk about, you know, the future. Let's talk about everything, and just like, you know, really kind of like just really unpack life. So yeah, that's another thing. It's kind of
Yeah,
key
exactly. So
connection with
it's
our
sitting
friends.
here. I
Mm-hmm,
need to go
mm-hmm,
get tea. I'm just kidding.
mm-hmm.
All right, yeah. So, sorry, I forgot what we were talking about for a second. But yeah, so I really got into this work because, you know, like my undergrad was in psychology and criminal justice too. So I kind of got a taste of, you know, what was actually going on and like learning about all of the injustices in the criminal and juvenile system
Mm-hmm.
and in society generally was one of the reasons why it was really important for me to get my PhD because I want to work towards, you know, meaningful change. Yeah, I think that's like one of my large goals. So that's kind of why I started all of this. Um, you know, and as well, like it's part of my work to, you know, focus on LGBTQ plus rights while, you know, centering the experiences of people with multiple intersectional identities. I think that's important and working alongside communities to help further this goal. I think, yeah, that's like really my, you know, focus and kind of how I got into this work and everything like that. I feel like I'm missing one of your questions, though.
No, you are not. No. I just want to say that I am so proud of you in all of this work and all of your research and, years of blood, sweat, and tears. And like it, I am just so proud to call you Dr. Rubino. And for those of y'all who don't know, Dr. Rubino was like my main person for the campaign, organized all of our volunteers, and, was just, the person I leaned on like the most. So, that's just, little off to the side. But so no. I also kind of wanted to, you talked about why you're passionate and like the background that led you towards this. We talked about your course, and so, let's kind of talk about like some of the main things that I think that are in recent times. A lot of people, when I come in as a lay person who, when you talk about the acronyms LGBTQIA+, that last A in there is for ally. And I do consider myself to be an ally, or like, or at least I heard somewhere, well, you can definitely break it down. I'm glad we're doing this show so you can really clarify, all of this. Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. I just didn't. I know, I do know some places do put the A for ally, but I think it usually stands for asexual individuals.
Gotcha. Okay, so the A in there. All right, well, that's good.
I know it's like a very common thing. Some people put slash, or some people just put, asexual, or, some might put ally. I'm not sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, like, but as a person who's like trying to, make sure that like, you advocate for everybody who, feels marginalized and, who doesn't feel that their rights are really being, heard and things of that nature. I try to explain things, especially based on like our conversations. And, the biggest question that I get from like cisgendered, and I'm like, getting that right, it's like, it's just like hetero versus, that's the right term, right?
Wait, okay, so
if I'm having a conversation with like, hetero people, then it's like they're cisgendered.
No. Oh, okay. So let's just go over some definitions too, because I think that's important. With any, like we need a starting point. We need similar definitions. So,
right.
Cisgender typically refers to individuals who their assigned sex at birth matches their gender identity. So an example might be someone assigned female at birth and identifies, and they're also a woman. So like when those are the same, that's cisgender.
Okay. Gotcha. So that's what like I was referring to, like, just kind of having those kind of conversations. I think that I'm getting into this question, which is essentially when I'm talking about, binary versus non-binary, I think that people have a hard time like kind of really understanding it. So that's really the question, can you really, explain and break down, pronouns and why they matter, and also some of the terminology that I think that people are like, well, everybody's offended, and it's just like, well, no, people really like, they want to be identified how they see themselves in the world. And so it's just like, it's really important to be able to kind of break it down and educate people. So hence I really wanted to kind of have this discussion.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really important. And I think you're an amazing ally, like working on all of this.
And I'm glad to hear that that's not a part of it. Some folks is like, not, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but to hear that it's not, I'm like, okay, well, then I won't use that no more. Right.
Okay, so to answer your question, so let's start with, you talked about binary, gender, non-binary. So let's start with binary gender. So I think we need to start like, this was really a construct created by Anglo-European colonizers to ensure that white, cis, straight men held all of the power in society. And I think when we realize that, we can start deconstructing what it is and what it means.
Decolonizing our mindsets.
Exactly, decolonizing. It's always important. So yeah, binary gender is a construct that we were really made to believe is real. It's really kind of a fallacy that humans are either male or female and nothing else. And then obviously like gender norms, quote unquote, arose from that. And obviously these gender norms are harmful to everyone. It places them in, predefined boxes that, people didn't always choose. And, the big problem is that people aren't encouraged to be their authentic selves with this. Like, it's very limiting for everyone. And obviously, like, there are many layers to this. Like, we were talking about intersectionality. Like, there's obviously, oppressive systems layering on this, like white supremacy, the patriarchy, and yeah, just so many layers to this. But basically, binary gender refers to a man or woman or girl, boy. Very, very limited. And non-binary is basically an umbrella term for genders that are outside of that. So this is an umbrella term for individuals who experience their gender outside of being solely a man or solely a woman. Mm-hmm. People can be combinations of both or be neither, and some individuals don't have gender at all. And typically they refer to themselves as agender.
Okay, so this can refer to like biologically, because there are people who are born hermaphrodite and, and then there are people who are, and that's, so like this can kind of run the gamut of, all of those things, biological and, in the way you feel.
Well, here I think we're mostly talking about gender, and I think you meant to say intersex individuals.
Okay, thank you. Thank
you. Yeah, like when people are assigned sex at birth, people are, there's usually 3 choices. They're either assigned female, intersex, or male at birth. But that is a separate thing from when we talk about gender. Typically, we separate them.
Okay.
Like we have our sex assigned at birth, and then we have our actual gender. And I think that's like important to be like, okay.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you for those definitions. And yeah, so I think I've actually just had an education too. And, I just kind of like opening my eyes to things. And I'm wondering, is almost like that, is that particular term like something that's outdated? And like, I know I said, hermaphrodite, and I'm just wondering, is that like the same as being intersex? And, like being like biologically, I have heard about, how folks are born with both male and female sex organs.
So I think the H word you said is very outdated and could
maybe derogatory.
It could be very offensive to people. So the word is intersex for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. What was the other question? Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No. I just learned something new. Just like the other day we were talking about something, and I'm just gonna say it here. I had no idea the connotation that grooming actually has, when it comes to, just kind of like, just abuse and, just kind of getting, and so I just think that it's when you have conversations with folks that, you think, a lot of things, but like, then you are exposed to something, new, and, then, the error of your ways. So thank you for enlightening.
Yeah. And I know like language is always changing too. So
that's another thing too. Like, and it's like, some I think that sometimes people get like uncomfortable with certain language, but it's like, okay, are you uncomfortable, or is this something that's new and it's taking you a while to like learn a new concept, or are you just kind of digging in your feet and saying, this is right or this is wrong, and this is, this is the way that I see the world. And I think that kind of like, this is why I asked you the question, initially about like the, policies and things, and, looking at society and culture and, cultural norms that have been so, ingrained in us, and, just kind of looking at, just kind of really enlightening and learning more about, just different perspectives. So yeah. But yeah, that was the question. And we were talking about pronouns and breaking that down, and why they matter, and why now I was, kind of mentioning to, my sister that like most meetings that I am in, we start off a meeting with introducing ourselves and our, pronouns. So my pronouns are she, her, and your pronouns are they, them. So, let's talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. That's super important. So, I mean, yeah, pronouns are basically words we use to describe ourselves and others. Everyone really uses pronouns daily, and I think not everyone realizes that and doesn't realize that, it's not a new concept or new word, really. Like, it's just we do it every day. And so I think some important points for this is that, one, it's important not to assume people's pronouns or their gender. Like, you don't know someone's gender or pronouns just by looking at them. Like another non-binary person might be very feminine presenting or very masculine presenting. Everyone's different, and everyone uses different pronouns too. So you can't really assume. And I worry when people assume, there's usually this cis heteronormative, like underlying thing going on too. So I think we need to be more mindful with that. And then getting pronouns correctly matters for everyone, especially for non-binary and trans individuals, because it validates our identity, and it shows people, like, it shows us that we're respected, and yeah, like, people respect us. And I think it's important to note that, misgendering is very harmful. Like, it shows disrespect. And if you make a mistake by accident, that's completely okay too. Just quickly correct yourself and move on with the conversation. I think that's important. And, with that, like, even like misgendering, I know people are like really good at correcting themselves, because I don't know, I'm walking down the street and I see, people interacting with like dogs, like pets, right? And, someone will be like, oh my God, your dog, he's so cute. And then, the owner will be like, oh, she's a girl. And the person would be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, and correct and everything. So I know it's a thing that, everyone does daily anyways. So, I just thought it was pretty funny. And
I'm on mute. Okay, Zoom live. I was on mute and I was saying something that like
oh no, what did you say?
I was saying thank you for like an actual like, anecdote of, just kind of how we, can just kind of catch ourselves, and we can, just, correct and then move forward, and then be respectful of what people, want to be seen as, and to, it's just really a part of people's identity. So it's almost like if someone is, Albanian, and then you say that, oh no, you're Italian or something. And it's just like, no, that's really taking away a big part of their identity. If you are just like, oh no, I'm just going to continue to, say whatever, and so I think that's just another facet of, our lives that, we should just be more conscious of. And I think that awareness it really kind of points to us just being a more sensitive, culture overall, and a world, because this is something that as a polyglot or a person who learns multiple languages, I love learning language, but then even gender is embedded in a lot of other languages, not so much with English, but when you think about like certain things have gender in languages. And so I remember being a part of a, kind of a talk where they talked about, in other languages, really being able to break down, gender and why do we need to, necessarily, and it's just so easy to be able to kind of adapt to, new vocabulary and, new ways of, just kind of really embracing what people want to, be seen as and, to identify as. So, thank you for that breakdown. Thank you for the very thoughtful analysis, and thank you for being a part of our show. And, any other, kind of closing thoughts or, on life and, things that you would want people to kind of, be aware of out there in the world, as a person who identifies as, non-binary, and, just kind of, things that you wish you could say to more people who, are, just kind of, they don't understand, or, you wish that more people just kind of took the time to know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would.
This is off script, by the way. I didn't put this.
Oh yeah, of course. But, I figured like. Yeah, but I would, encourage people to go on to. I think GLAAD has an amazing website. They have a bunch of, really helpful, guides for allies. I would encourage, cisgender people to try to introduce themselves, like you talked about, with their pronouns, so we can try to help make it the norm. Like not assuming pronouns and just be like, hey, these are my pronouns. Like, this is how you respect me, and you tell me how, I respect you by using your pronouns. Right. I think that's like a good start. And to, be open to having these conversations, like everyone has their own, mix. Getting back into intersectionality, everyone has their own, identities from privilege and identities from oppression. And I think, just being, mindful within yourself and within society as well. Like,
okay. Yeah, and I'm glad you that you had that wisdom to impart upon us, because I think that I had this conversation with my friend Donnie, who I think you guys have met before, but she was just mentioning, like, why do we even need to say like things like mommy and me or sister, or and I think that kind of getting away from those gendered things, instead of saying like parent, parenting classes, not taking like, or looking at saying sibling as opposed to sisters and brothers, or like, or hey sis, instead it's hey sib, and just things of that nature that kind of get us away from kind of like these tired gender tropes, that kind of box people into certain categories anyway. So, it just really is opening up your mind a little bit more to, that they're. And I think that sometimes when you do say, parents as opposed to like mom or dad, it just kind of really takes off so much, that kind of comes with those kind of like things, and, just kind of taking away the gender from a lot of things, you can really connect with it on like a more granular level. And I think that it makes it that much more impactful, to say sibling and to say parents, and, kind of taking that gender away from things like that. So, yeah, thank you. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on your show. This is awesome. And thank you again for the amazing tea.
Yes. And I'm going to toast your tea with my water, which is boring. Water. I actually have been wanting to take a sip of the water for a while. Well, thank you everybody who tuned in out there on the Facebook. And we're going to go ahead and end the live. Thank you. This has been Quick to Politic. And thank you very much, Dr. Laura Rubino, for joining me tonight. And bye, everybody. Okay, the live has been ended. And so
like we're not on anymore.
And I'm going to stop the recording. So thank you for tuning in out there on the YouTubes and for listening out there in podcast world.